Are Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds the most hated couple in Hollywood right now? Some of the backlash they've gotten over the weekend may indicate that they have taken the #1 spot. Also, I watched The Biggest Loser Netflix documentary. I have some thoughts about it, as well as Jillian Michaels' reaction to it. We have some Real Housewives of Orange County tea to get into. Lots to hit this week. Let's dive in. You're listening to No Filter with Zack Peter, your go-to source for all the latest pop culture and reality TV tea, served fresh all week long. Now, let's dive in. What's up, guys? Welcome on in, welcome on in, welcome on in. How's your Monday going? I hope you guys had a good weekend. I had the best time with Donna Bowling over the weekend, and I just want to take a moment to give her her flowers and to say I'm so proud of her. We had the best time at Dozers Live. Stu was there. Molly Dare was there. I got to meet Molly. We've known each other virtually, but I got to meet Molly, and I'm like, oh my God, you're like so hot in person. We needed an intimacy coordinator. I was like telling Molly she was hot. We were like doing trains, grinding up on the dance floor. I kissed Stu on stage. Like just the amount. Donna kissed me. Like the amount of like kissing and touching and bumping and grinding and compliments that we paid each other. Definitely, definitely would not have been kosher for Blake Lively. Like, where is the intimacy coordinator? Zack, I thought about you all weekend. Are you feeling any better? Yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Sorry, I had a moment on Friday of last week. My brain, I think my body had finally just kind of like taken a toll. I wasn't feeling well towards the latter end of last week, and I was like, I just need to get through Dosers Con. I'm like, it's okay, you're fine, you're fine. Just get through Dosers Con, get through Dosers Con. Don't die, don't die, don't die. And luckily, I am alive. But yeah, my body was just so off, and my brain just completely zonked out, and I was like, I'm a little dizzy, I'm a little woozy, and so whatever it was has passed, and I feel good. Oh my God, you and Lauren dancing, me and Lauren 90 from the Court of Random Opinion. What a time. Did anyone get pregnant? That's a story for members only. Hope you get better muscle clad, Zack. Are you saying I don't have good muscle clad? What is muscle clad? Mu- Oh, uh-oh. What happened? Uh, I don't sorry. The tab closed out. Do I not have muscle clad? What is muscle clad? I don't know if that's a compliment or that's a dig. I don't know if that's a nice thing or a mean thing. Like I posted these photos on X the other day. Actually, I'll show it to you. I posted these on X, and then someone responded. They're like, "You look huge," and I was like, "Is that a good thing, like a good huge, or like a bad huge?" I was like, "I don't understand what like." I mean, I'm trying to show off my muscles, right? Trying to show off the muscles. So is this like a good? Like, are we happy that I look huge? Are we like not happy that I look? I was just very confused as to why, if that was meant to be an insult or not. They are definitely in the top 10. Who's in the top 10? The muscle clads? I need more Zack and Lauren content. Lauren was a hoot, you guys. Lauren was dancing. She dropped it down low and then she got stuck there. And then she's been like trolling herself since then. I was like, listen, I'll be honest. I'm normally good at handling my drinks. Um, but I think I only had like two, and they looked relatively small vodka sodas before going on stage. And when I got on stage, I was like, oh my God, I'm a little Liddy City right now. I think because when you're like hosting it, muscle clad is a very good thing. I know muscle clad is a good thing, but they were saying they hope I get muscle clad. So I'm like, do I not look like I have muscle clad already? Like, don't mess with my ego because it's already very fragile. Um, I was, like, very Liddy. I didn't even tell Donna this, but I was very Liddy City on stage, and I was like, "Ooh, I need to pull it together." I guess because when you're hosting, because 'cause I'm like actually, when I'm hosting before I go on stage, we know to always have, like, the green room stocked with sugar-free Red Bull, and so I normally chug a sugar-free Red Bull before having to go on stage, and this time, it's so much more like you're kind of more relaxed when you're just the guest in the show and not the one hosting. Because when you're hosting, you can like pull out your superpower with your hyper focus, and then you have the crowd and you're like monitoring everything. So your brain goes into hyper gear. Whereas like for me, I was kind of just like, woo, let's have fun. And I was like, whoa, the cocktails be hitting me. So yeah. Did you tell Stu his takes from Real Housewives of Orange County are trash? We did. I think we got like heated for a minute because Donna was like, "All right, we're breaking this up," and like we kept going. It was like a Housewives reunion, and Stu and I were like going at it on stage, and then in the end, we kissed and made up. So, you look great today. Glad you're feeling better. Thank you. I thought your drink I thought your drink was gonna fall off your armchair for sure. I've learned the delicate dance of how to juggle your drinks, right? Trust me, after coming on tour, I know all the tricks, I know all the angles, I know all the things, right? You have to keep your drink, um you can leave it on the armchair. Don't put it on your lap because then the drink will your lap will end up getting wet. And then when you stand up for photos, it's gonna look like you peed yourself. Like Stu did that. He had his cocktail on his lap, and I was like, it's not gonna bode well. People are gonna see your pants are gonna be wet. So yeah, they're gonna think it was a jizz stain from when I kissed you. JK, jokes, guys, jokes. But I'm bumps. Yeah. If they hated it, it's not because of the whole Justin Baldoni they did to themselves. But be okay. I don't know what side conversation we're having. Yes, guys, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so. But I just wanted to take a moment to talk about how incredibly fun Donna's show was. The dessert table was insane. The bartender, so fun. He was giving out shots. He's like, everybody, let's take shots, 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 shots. Everybody. So what a time. Everybody was so fun and so lovely to meet, and everybody was getting lit. There was so much that goes on, especially behind the scenes of these things. It's wild. Wild, wild, wild. But what a fun night. Congrats to Donna. I'm so proud of her. Just seeing her on stage and seeing her walk up there and knowing that she was nervous because this was her first show, and just seeing her walk up there and just like take the stage like a champ. I was just like, yes, it's in there, and she owned it, she rocked it, and she killed it, and the dance party at the end was so fun. Like I said, everyone was bumping and grinding and doing all the things, and it was just what a time. Everybody was lit and just like, taking photos and smacking booties and dropping it down low. Get low to the flow. Get low to the flow. We did the sprinkler. Boom, 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 boom. Yes, we did it all. It was so much fun. Yeah, it was funny. It was a good time. It's always a good time. Sounds like my kind of good time too. I know that's right. All right, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so yet, and you can catch the podcast on all podcast platforms, everywhere on the internet. Killing like every Zach Peters stream. Killing it. Yes. Thank you. Get low and get stuck. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Okay, let's talk Blake and Ryan. The reaction to Blake's new what's her new film? Because there's been a lot of reactions to that. We can talk about that. And then I finally watched the Netflix documentary. And I'm like, okay, now I understand where Jillian Michaels coming from, but like, did she go too hard? We'll get into all of that, and we'll talk Real Housewives of Orange County. But really quickly, a message from this week's sponsor. DraftKings Casino has your playbook for gaming action all season long. Play thousands of popular slots for a shot at jackpots. Over 400 million has already been awarded. New players get 500 spins on Huff and More Puff over 10 days. Download the app, use code NOFILTER, and claim your spins after your first $5 wager. Get in the game with DraftKings Casino, home of the largest jackpot win in online casino history. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. 21 plus. Physically present in Connecticut, Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, West Virginia only. Void in Ontario. Eligibility restrictions apply. New customers only. Non-withdrawable casino spins issued as 50 spins per day for 10 days, valid for featured game only, and expire each day after 24 hours. See terms at casino.draftkings.com/promos. Ends October 5th, 2025 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. There you go. Go check out DraftKings and use code NOFILTER. Get those games popping. Okay. Blake Lively, as we found out on Friday, has now on this lighting, has now announced that she's going to be part of a new movie called The Survivalist. It's a rom-com we read last week. It's where she's, I think, a reality TV producer, and she goes to like work with this survival dude, and then something goes wrong, and then they have to actually survive in the wild. And then she learns, oh, he's not actually very savvy and survivally, so she's gonna have to save him. Of course, Blake Lively being the hero in the end is a movie she's gonna want to do for sure. Yeah, not according to the internet. They are not feeling it. They are not having. I know Elsie came out and Elsie was like, listen, you guys messed up the assignment last time. You're going to get it right this time. We're not going to hate watch it. I don't even care to hate watch this movie, to be honest with you. Another simple favor, I will take the L. I will say I watched it. I watched it so that you didn't have to. I did hate watch it. I thought the movie wasn't, it was so wacky and soap opera-y, but it was still enjoyable. Sorry, it just was. It was, without the hating Blake Lively, I think had she not launched this whole legal warfare with Justin Baldoni, I really think the movie would have put her back in good graces after last summer with It Ends With Us and how everybody was kind of turning on her and nobody liked her. I think everybody would have forgotten about all of that and just moved on to like this, to Another Simple Favor, and I think she would have been fine and people would have liked her again. But this whole legal saga has just completely tanked and ruined her reputation because now with the announcement of the survival list, these are all the reactions. Here's the boycott button. Boycott, but thoughts and prayers to the cast and crew. Literally, no one wants to see her in this film again. She took her career and hung it out to dry. Bye bye, Blake Lively. You put this on yourself. XOXO, the public eye. Harriet says, we're not watching. Annabelle says, God be with the cast and crew of that movie. I don't think she'll be terrible on the set. I think she will, moving, at least for next year or two, I think every set she goes on to, she's going to go above and beyond to be super nice and super gracious so that her reputation will not be tarnished by her working relationship and all the rumors that have been going around for years about her being a diva and difficult to work with. She's going to try to combat that. Peach says, anything she's in, I'm out. Some dude named Jamie says, I hope it flops so they stop casting her. And then JM Stone 69 says, what actor would sign up to star opposite of that? Shelly says, not going to watch anything Blake or Ryan's, but I can't believe the director or producer would want to work with Blake Lively. Link Mister says, I'm surprised someone hired to work with her again after everything that went down, TBH. We do, Paula KK says, I'll be watching. Good for Paula. Rebecca says, after It Ends With Us, I will never watch another Blakezilla again. Shuster Cox says, won't watch that one. AFB 1975 says, not watching. Charlotte says, won't watch anything with her or her husband in it. Rihanna G says, not watching. Bobby Brown 82 says, prayer for her male co-stars. Krabby Kathy says, anyone who watches is a silly head. Oh, that's nice. That's a nice way of saying it. Saying what I really think. No one wants to see Blake anymore. We love you, Justin. Christina says, skip hashtag Team Justin. Mrs. Franco says, that's great. Can't wait to watch. H Wing says, who's the director? Has this person been living under a rock? Susan says, you people don't like her. You don't know her. You're hating on a woman that has stood up for herself from bullies. Wow, that triggers you. No, I think she's the bully, my love. When you people clearly don't know the truth, do you? Do you know the truth? I don't think you can handle the truth. You want the truth? You can't handle the truth. Maybe you should have a good look inside yourself and stop being so nasty towards others online. If you're not happy with your own life, then change it. Well, what does Susan look like? Susan Briggs Turner with her 72 followers and all her flower pictures. What is that? Susan, go smoke some more crystals. I mean, it's a good message, but I think Blake Lively is certainly certainly the bully in this case. Book Girl says, I roll. Significant Tona says, the drama hasn't ended yet. She's going to start a new one. Lainey says, I don't think I like or trust her anymore. Yeah, so the comments just go on and on. How many comments are here? This one has 656 comments, but they're all negative. Nobody wants anything to do with Blake Lively anymore. Like, I think she really has ruined her own reputation, and now people are just like, "Nope, I'm good. I'm all good in the neighborhood." And I'm not surprised. I'm genuinely not surprised. It just I don't know if there is any sort of recovery for her at this point. And look, so that was E News's comments. Here's Deadline, because obviously all the mainstream media is trying to protect her and Ryan. Renner's banner says, "Good luck to everyone in that production. Please provide them body cam for their experience for their own safety." DJ says, "Good luck to the director dealing with her drama." B. Betty says, "How does she still get parts?" Kate says, "Nothing personal, just won't be watching anything from Blake Lively and her husband Ryan Reynolds, canceled forever." But it's funny because it was, or Sincerely Karen says, "Can't wait for this to flop." Uh, Tyla says, will she let anyone direct? Because she's also a co-producer, which at this point I feel like that's the only way she's going to be able to get projects is if she is a co-producer or has authorship over it. Center Senti Butterfly says sending subpoenas worldwide is a recipe for disaster. I mean, that was just one piece of it. Curb Your Enthusiasm says, "Can Zach, are you going to watch it for us?" I don't think I'm going to watch this one, guys. I actually don't think I give a shit about this one. Like, I like, again, Another Simple Favor was different. One, it had Anna Kendrick, and two, it came off of A Simple Favor. I enjoyed the first movie. I thought it was fun and campy. Henry Golding is hot to look at, and he has like a really hot shower scene in Another Simple Favor. Anna Kendrick, fine. I think she's really funny. I think she's really talented. But to me, this, I mean, they don't even have a male cast member to co-star in it with her. That hasn't even been done yet. It's Mark Platt producing. His son Ben Platt was in Dear Evan and Perfect Pitch. Yeah, he was also in The Politician. The Platt family, I mean, they're pretty well known in Hollywood. So it's interesting that I mean, listen, I'm sure he's like Blake Lively's the talk of the town. Lots of people watched Another Simple Favor to hate watch it. But as Elsie pointed out, the algorithm doesn't read whether it's a hate watch or a real watch. It just reads that it's a watch, and more eyeballs, more watchers, better, engagement, higher subscriptions, better ad rev, like all of that stuff. So I don't know. From the synopsis, I feel like I've already seen it. Yeah, it doesn't, Glenn R will do it. Could you imagine? I think that would really turn people off if they got Brandon Sklenar to star opposite Blake Lively in this film. Oof, I think that would also really cement his career in Hollywood. But yeah, I did see the rumors about Ryan Reynolds and the beef with Robert Downey Jr. I've found them to be unsubstantiated, so I don't actually think that there's anything there. Steve's show this morning was so interesting about Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively's ultimate goals for themselves before this. I think they had lots of big goals for themselves before this. I think Blake wanted to be the next Reese Witherspoon. I think she wanted to tap into, books that she can turn into films because Reese was really good at that. Movies and TV series. Was it Little Fires Everywhere? That was a good one. Big Little Lies. That was a good one. I think Reese was really smart about finding books and adapting them into films or TV shows and producing them and co-starring in them. And there's so much money in that. And I'm sure Ryan Reynolds saw that there was so much money in that. And I think they thought Ryan has the comic book guys, right? He has mostly a male audience since he's moved out of the rom-com days, and he still kind of has some of that audience. Like, I loved Just Friends. Just Friends is one of my absolute all-time favorite movies. Samantha James, bitch. So I love me Just Friends. The fact that Ryan Reynolds is in it, don't love that. He was also great in The Proposal opposite Sandra Bullock and Betty White. That's another really great movie. Loved those. Sucks that, he's in it. But I think he like kind of had a little bit of that audience where at least that female audience was familiar with him. Then he really branched out and blew up with Marvel and Deadpool and really attracted that male audience. He has Marvel in his court, he has Disney in his court. And then I think they were like, well, Blake Lively has Gossip Girl fans, and she's done a few movies here and there that's built her somewhat of a niche, loyal audience. And then I think they thought if they could make her into like the next Reese Witherspoon, a younger Reese Witherspoon, who is able to produce and adapt these books into films, similar to It Ends With Us, then that would be, their way of dominating Hollywood altogether, because then she has a powerhouse husband that has the male audience, and then she's a powerhouse herself and she has the female audience, and together they would just be the power couple, especially because people were prior to all of this like, oh my God, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, couples goals, couples goals. They had a cute, like, fun banter in their relationship that I think people really enjoyed, you know? So that completely blew up in their face. Don't know what else to tell you. Let's talk about Netflix's documentary Fit for TV, The Reality of the Biggest Loser. It was a 3-part docuseries, and it came out last week. It's been on the top. And it's been consistently at the top. I think as of today, it was number 2 on Netflix, which, obviously lasted a lot longer than Meghan Markle when she was at the top of the charts, just barely scraping the bottom of that top 10 for a hot second. But I actually enjoyed the documentary. It's all 3 parts, and they do get into the Jillian Michaels stuff. They don't get into it until the very end of part 3, though. So I was watching most of it. My friend Jess, she has a really great docu-series. It's a podcast docu-series called Cult of Body and Soul. I would highly recommend you guys check it out if you're familiar with Soul Cycle. And, it kind of gets into the history and the building and the, expansion of what Soul Cycle ultimately became. And so if you guys are interested in those types of documentaries, she also did a docu-series called Finding Fire Island that goes into the history of Fire Island. Really fun. If you guys like docu-style content, I would highly suggest that. And I think there's a visual version of it on YouTube. It's called Cult of Body and Soul, and it's about Soul Cycle. So I was talking to her about this, and I was like, "What do you think? What do you think about the Jillian Michaels of it all?" And she's just like, "The Jillian Michaels stuff was, like, barely even in the documentary," which true, but Jillian Michaels has always been somebody that's garnered headlines, and so I the part that really focuses on Jillian, because the rest of it focuses on how she was tough, she was a ball buster, she had teeth, you know? And so outside of the final episode, I don't think there was anything too negative about Jillian Michaels. I didn't think Bob Harper he said so she was upset with Bob, and she's like, "The last time I ever talked to him was in 2014," right? And she was like, right, was it 2014 or 20 what were the she dropped all the receipts. I don't remember the exact year that it was, because in the documentary, she, I guess, gets upset with Bob because he says that she was the only one from The Biggest Loser that did not reach out to him after he had his heart attack. And so I actually am team Bob on that one, because I get it. They had a tumultuous history. I get it. They didn't end on good terms. I get it. She felt like Bob was never really there for them. But at the same time, you guys do have history. And in a weird way, you're always going to be bonded in that sense. That I don't think that there was any harm in her sending a nice text message. It didn't need to she didn't need to send flowers. She didn't need to call him. It could have just been a simple text. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I hope you're doing well. She could have added, let me know if you need anything. Not that he would take her up on that offer. Call me if you need, like, I don't know. I feel like that would have been something. So I'm actually team Bob now, getting the context of what he said and what was like all of that together. I feel like I side with Bob. That would be hurtful to me if I had a heart attack, and even if I had a falling out with a friend, if it was someone that I was close to and worked with for a very long time, I would have expected to have heard something, I think that that's fair. Now, beyond that, beyond that, there's the medical stuff with Dr. H, right? Western Burbs Kristen said she dropped receipts which said names and people and the medications they were on, which I think is a HIPAA violation. Not necessarily. So HIPAA, I believe, is only in reference to the hospital protecting your medical records. That's I don't know. A HIPAA violation is the failure to comply with the Health Insurance Probability and Accountability Act regulations, resulting in unauthorized access, use, or disclosure of personal medical information. These violations can range from insufficient security measures to improper training to accidental oversharing or identity theft of patient data, and can lead to significant penalties for individuals and organizations. Um, Okay, it includes medical information, medical history, billing information. Got it. Um, yeah, see, I think it's if you're a healthcare worker, it's only in relation to healthcare workers and hospitals, like those types of organizations that aren't allowed, right? Like if you if I tell you, "Oh, I'm on Ozempic," and then you repeat that to somebody, that's not necessarily a HIPAA violation if you publicly tell people that I'm on Ozempic, because we're not medical professionals, right? I'm just disclosing my medical information to you, which was done with Jillian Michaels. They disclosed their medical information to her in terms of what medications they were on, and her sharing that publicly, I don't think is a violation of HIPAA. Um, the people signed a release of HIPAA. Yeah, because they're on the television show. So people get confused about HIPAA. People get confused about HIPAA all the time. I think it was just like a term that got thrown around specifically in like 2020, and then now it's become, a commonly used term, but it's not a violation of HIPAA for her to release, especially because they kind of released that privacy away when they signed up for the television show. Now, that said, um, so when it came to the caffeine pills and the fat burner, I don't remember it being the big scandal. I remember some of the drama with The Biggest Loser about like how it ruined people's metabolisms and like the scandal of it all. So what I think happened is The Biggest Loser was a new concept, and it was a revolutionary concept, and it was a new style of television show, and there were these stories with these people that felt relatable, and their stories were like, stories that were inspirational, and then The Biggest Loser became a big brand. It started, being sold in different countries, and there were products that were being marketed to it. There were all sorts of endorsement deals. And so I think with the gain in popularity, you're always going to want to find somebody that's going to look for the scandal. And it appears that's the case. There was an article, I don't remember if it was the Post or the Times. I think it was the New York Times. Maybe it was the New York Post. No, I think it was the New York Times. They did an article where they said that, Biggest Loser was killing your metabolism. And then there was also an article that came out saying that they were giving contestants drugs. And the drug ended up being caffeine pills, diet pills. And so there were no illegal drugs, but there was a whole investigation that went on. And so with it ruining your metabolism, and then this out of context piece about, being drugged on the set of Biggest Loser, like it was the culmination of things. And then there was the scandal with the caffeine pills, and that fell back on Jillian Michaels because they were like, she gave them caffeine pills, and she stood by it. She's like, I think giving them unlimited access to caffeine is dangerous, right? If you're allowed to drink coffee all day, every day, that's dangerous. But she's like, but if you're supplementing with caffeine pills, that's different because it's controlled. I agree with her on that. It is, or from a layman's perspective, right? I'm not a doctor. I'm not a physician. I'm not a fitness specialist or instructor. I'm not a nutritionist. But to me, as a layman, I think, yeah, that makes more sense. If you're giving somebody unlimited access to coffee all day long, yeah, you can abuse that and you can get, you can harm your body. But if you're doing it in a controlled way with professionals and you're giving them caffeine pills, and the ones that she said that she liked were, no more than like the equivalent to like a cup or two of coffee, then okay, I get it. I hear her argument and I agree. I think that's great. Now there were other contestants, like there was one woman who like passed out on the set, and she, I remember her season, she was like the villain of the season. She passed out, and so she wasn't really able to work out, and she was like really difficult to work with in the set environment, and the coaches hated her and the audience hated her, and she was like really the villain. And so they bring her into it. I think they picked a lot of disgruntled former contestants of The Biggest Loser to come on the show and to talk about what a terrible experience they had. Like there was one girl, sorry, there was another woman. There were three women in particular that were featured quite a bit and that were the most polarizing. One was like a blonde white woman. One was a black woman, and then the other one was the girl that collapsed when she was running. She was like, I was so determined, and then her body like shut down, and it was like really shutting down. They were only supposed to run a mile, but I guess a lot of them, like their body just physically couldn't handle that, and she went so hard, so fast that she like her body just completely gave out on her. Remember the Saved by the Bell episode where they got addicted to caffeine pills. It's so funny to look back at those now, like, the like, that era, like, Seventh Heaven is hilarious where the way that they poke fun at caffeine. I think Simon at one point was, like, drinking coffee, and then he was, like, addicted to coffee, and he's like, "Oh my god, I'm addicted to coffee. I need coffee." That's like, you're a child, and you're, like, having coffee with caffeine withdrawals from drinking a cup of coffee. Or the pot. Remember I know that went viral on TikTok with the mom, and she's just like, "It was me. I smoked pot." "What? No." Or the commercials. Remember the pot commercials where they were like, "Oh, this is my friend Christina. Christina used to be fun. Ever since she started smoking pot, this is all we do now." And Christina's like all flattened out on the couch and she's like, "Ugh," and she's supposed to like mimic a stoner. Those are all so funny. So yeah. But the Biggest Loser documentary, it's a good series. Like I said, it's only 3 episodes. Each episode is less than an hour, so you can binge it in a day. Really quick to get through. And I think some of the contestants they picked were, like, the dramatic ones, the villainous ones, the ones that were obviously the most polarizing, and who now wanna come back and have a bone to pick, and, right, they have something that they wanna say about it, and they wanna talk about The Biggest Loser was the worst thing ever. I think it's complicated. I think when it comes to Jillian Michaels, just to close that piece out, and then I'll give you my full thoughts on it. I think it's complicated because I think it ultimately opened up a bigger, better conversation about the rising rates of obesity in our country. And I think it was a really good conversation to open up with. I think it encouraged people to want to get healthier. It encouraged people to want to buy Biggest Loser marketed products because they were healthier, fat free, lower calorie, whatever it was. It elevated that conversation and encouraged people to want to get healthy. Were there mistakes that were made along the way? Sure, some of the challenges were a bit much, but it's also television. And I think the show is on for what? How many? 13 plus seasons or 12 plus seasons? I you know, I kinda feel like you know what you're signing up for when you sign up for a show like that, and, you also have to be mindful of making sure you're taking care of your body, and you have fitness instructors, you have a doctor, you have producers that are all, at the end of the day, hoping and rooting for you to be successful at the end of the day. So I think there were television elements of it, I think there were health elements of it, but overall, I think it was a positive thing for the country, and it became a huge success until people started digging and looking for scandal, and then I think they blew it out of proportion. And they kind of get into that in the docuseries too, about like the claims about your metabolism shutting down. It wasn't a real study. It was a very small controlled study of like 14 people that the New York Times came to the conclusion with, and it wasn't really the most accurate. Um and yeah, and the reality though is there were a lot of people that gained a lot of the weight back. And I think a part of that is because you're in a very heightened environment, right? And it's a very controlled environment and it's not the real world. I think any type of reality competition show, whether it's a dating show and you think you're going to find love, once you leave the show and you get back into the real world, all the real world distractions and things are still going to be there. And the complications of real life are going to get involved. You're not in this controlled setting anymore. So, yeah, you can say, oh, well, the probability of finding love on a reality show isn't realistic. Maybe, maybe not. Some people have been able to find it successful, others haven't, but it ultimately depends on your life afterwards. Holly says, the New York Times eye roll. Yeah, but it's funny that we can now look back at, that time and, oh, the judge just sealed your Jed Wallace shout out. Why did the judge seal my Jed Wallace shout out? It was unsealed and now it's sealed again? It was already unsealed. Why do we seal it if it was unsealed? That's strange. That must be a Baldoni. Oh, order from Judge Lyman, seal. Why? If it was already disclosed and released, that doesn't really make sense. It's under a protective order. Listen, the screenshots already exist. Sorry, Judge. We already saw it. But thank you, Judge Lyman. Um, but yeah, so I think the show was good. I think the show was helpful. I think it elevated the conversation. I think ultimately it ran its course. And, a show like that isn't going to last forever and it's going to need to evolve at some point. It's going to need to change and become something new, especially now with the modern day with Ozempic. And that was another part of the conversation is how Ozempic has come in. And of course, all the disgruntled former Biggest Loser contestants are like, "Oh, Ozempic's great. Like nothing works like Ozempic." It's like, well, yeah, because when you were on the show, you didn't want to put in any effort, and now you're just like, "Let me just take Ozempic," and it's easy. And nothing against people that are on or take Ozempic. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I think the critics of Ozempic make really strong points of like, well, what's going to happen when you're no longer on Ozempic? Like you can use it as an aid, but I think people are abusing it and using Ozempic more as a lifestyle rather than an aid. I can hear in your voice is activated. I'm not activated yet. We need a activated meter, and we're gonna see like so Ozempic team versus no Ozempic team. Listen, I think the thing with Ozempic, and I know like Jillian Michaels has been heavily critical of it 'cause she's like, once you're on it, you kind of have to stay on it forever. And I think that's kind of a reality that not a lot of people face. Um, or like realize is that it's kind of a lifestyle that you're gonna have to live with. Like once you're on it, but then there are also cases like look at Dolores Catania. She talked about how I don't think she wasn't on Ozempic. Was it semaglutide? She was on a different one, Wegovy, and she was taking it for a while and then it stopped working and then they tried to switch it and then like it just and she gained like 10 or 15 pounds back like that and she was like I'm unhappy with it like da 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 and so I think yeah Bloom makes a good point. Ozempic was meant to be for people with diabetes. No, yeah, well, Mounjaro is the one she was on. Um, Listen, I think they are meant for a specific type of person that needs it, and I think the people that need it should absolutely be able to utilize it. But the reality is now everybody's using it, and they're using it as a quick fix rather than a long-term solution. People aren't thinking about the long-term effects. People aren't thinking about the long-term dedication like they're just used. And I'm like, listen, if you need to use it temporarily for yourself, fine. Or if you're somebody that has diabetes that struggles with that, and like, I just think there's layers to it. And I don't like that our culture right now has absolutely abused Ozempic. And I think that, The Biggest Loser, though flawed, did have a lot of really positive points that ultimately got completely thrown out with the body positivity movement, right? I think the body positivity movement absolutely killed a model like The Biggest Loser and killed that from becoming something that could have really helped a lot of people. And the documentary even shows that, like, at the time of the original airing of The Biggest Loser, obesity was, I think, at like 35%. And currently in 2025, it's risen to 45% in our country. So obesity has gone up. I think the body positivity movement has hurt that. And that's not to say that you can't be healthy and, not like I'm not saying everybody needs to be skinny, but I do think that there are health elements that definitely need to be considered for sure. And so, I know that's an uncomfortable conversation for a lot of people. And listen, I've been on my own journey with my weight. I was very, very overweight, and then I was very, very underweight. And now I'm kind of like somewhere in the middle where I'm working on myself. And I feel like the outside is more of the reflection of the work I've done inside. Okay. So this is the point I was trying to make with The Biggest Loser is where I think that they were flawed is they put people in this very narrow, controlled environment without the tools and resources to help them outside of that. Right. And so I think there should have been like an emotional mental piece to it too. Builds up your mental resilience. Focus on your emotional baggage and learn how to release that and let that go. Because when you have mental resilience, you're more determined to keep going. And when you release your emotional baggage, you release all the weight. And I think those two things are key. They do have a therapist in there, and it's kind of hard. Like I get a lot of the points that she's making, but she's also I don't want to misspeak here, but she was a very obese woman who is a therapist, and she's critiquing the show, and she's talking about all the flaws with the show about like, not promoting. I don't really understand about why The Biggest Loser was so flawed. And I was like, well, I get it, but also I don't know if this is the right person to be giving this message. Like, I don't like at least The Biggest Loser gave people something to aspire to. It's hard. I'm really trying to not misspeak and I'm trying to not offend anybody, but I'm also trying to just like be honest about this conversation. And I think that there are a lot of health risks that come with being obese. And that's not to say there aren't health risks with being skinny either. But I think the focus should be on health and not size of the body, if that makes sense. And I don't know if I agreed with all of this woman's points, even though she is a therapist, but also, there are different types of therapists with different types of approaches, and some of them work better for others. And so that's not to say that just because, like, look at Dr. Leslie Dobkin, right? What a wackadoodle, but she's a doctor with a license. Doesn't mean that every single doctor is representative of the best advice that should be dished out. So, yeah, I think The Biggest Loser, like I said, elevated a conversation. got wiped out by the body positivity movement, which I think was a swing of the pendulum in the complete opposite direction. And now I'm hoping that maybe we can get somewhere in the middle. But unfortunately, I think the pendulum is swiping back in the opposite direction with all this Ozempic and bringing back this heroin skinny chic era, which I don't think is the healthiest either. Like, I think Ozempic people are overdoing Ozempic and over abusing it, and that's not focused on health either. So I think there needs to be a balance of somewhere in the middle, but I think we're just going to continue going back and forth and back and forth. And I wouldn't be surprised if that body positivity movement finds a wave back in a few years, maybe even in 10 years, where the pendulum has to swing back, and then we're, promoting obesity again. And it's like we just go back and forth from promoting this heroin chic to this obesity. And it's like I think we need to find a happy place somewhere in the middle. And I think the biggest loser, for the most part, maybe did have a healthier message, although flawed in many ways. I think it did have a positive, healthy message until it went too far. And then obviously the scandals broke and ultimately killed the show. But the documentary was good. And I think it's a really good conversation, talking piece to discuss these nuances and to discuss the layers, you know? So the documentary is good. Jillian, I understand why she's upset. Dr. H kind of throws her under the bus a little bit. It's only a fraction of the third episode where they really hone in on Jillian. But they do kind of attribute the scandal of it all to her. And I don't think that's necessarily fair, given that she wasn't in the documentary and she chose to not be interviewed in the documentary. Now, she is in it, though, because there were podcast interviews that she had done with other people that they gave the rights to play the clips on the show. So there were clips of Jillian in recent years where she talks about like Ozempic. I think it's a funny get around of getting her to talk about these things without formally getting her to talk about these things for the documentary. They just pulled interviews that she had done, and from there were able to, just buy that interview clip and then play it on the show to get her opinion on all of these different things. So it was an interesting way to incorporate her. In her beef with Bob Harper, I side with Bob. In her beef with Dr. H, I don't know how I feel about Dr. H. I didn't get the best vibes from Dr. H. But yeah, I think I like Jillian. I mean, I don't always agree with her. I don't always see eye to eye with her, but I have a deep amount of respect for her, as I do with Bob Harper, right? And I really enjoyed getting to watch Bob on The Traitors last season. So yeah, documentaries come with their own bias. True. I think that's true. I will say this one I don't think was all that biased, because I think it really showed both sides, and it allowed people on both sides to have their opinions. You had the producers and you had Bob and you had Allison who hosted the show. You had all of their perspectives, and some of them were very pro show, and then you had some contestants who were kind of in the middle, and then you had like those disgruntled contestants that like wanted to talk about what a terrible experience that was. I don't know if it was a terrible experience. I think it was a very life-changing experience, and you can choose to focus on the bad or you can choose to focus on the good, knowing that there's probably both. Wild Bone says, I'm also on the Friends with Dr. H. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Dr. H entirely. So yeah, not my favorite, but I thought the documentary was good. Or the docu-series. Easy to watch. Beth says, honestly, Zach, that is what I love about you. You keep true to yourself and you can find the good and are not afraid to say, I agree with them about this and I don't agree with them about that. I try. Listen, and that's going to happen with you guys. You're going to watch this show and you're going to be like, wow, I didn't like that. Wow, I wish you didn't say that. Wow, this, wow, that, whatever, you know? And I have to stand my ground in that. I will say there is one thing that I did recently that I maybe kind of wish I did it. And that was the apology that I issued when I was getting all the hate regarding Perez and Broken Crystal Ball. That's not to say that anything I said was disingenuine, but I think I was feeling pressure to say something out of a knee-jerk reaction, and I was bending to a mob that ultimately I realized didn't care about me or my show at the end of the day. They're always down for a takedown and they're always down for a fight. And I think the hard part was the comments that they were leaving on my shows and on other shows and comments in my friends' shows, was that I was being mean to my community. I was being nasty to them. I was fighting with them. I was yelling at them. I was calling them names. I was calling them this or that. And I was just like, wait, and at the time when you're in it, you feel like, "Oh, wow, am I offending my community?" And then I stopped. I was like, "No, wait, my community would never," like Beth, I think is a perfect example. Anybody that knows me, knows who I am, and doesn't take anything personal. And I feel like there's a mutual respect that we have here, right? And so anybody that's going to take offense to that, I don't think was here for the right reasons. And I think, unfortunately, there are going to be times where we agree and where we disagree, and that's okay. As long as we continue to keep it as respectful as we can for the most part. And I know sometimes I can get caught up in my own ego and emotions, but I stand firm in what I believe. And if I'm ever wrong or I need to course correct, I will happily do that. But that was one time where I felt like I buckled to a mob, which is so uncharacteristic of who I am and my values at my core, and I don't ever wanna do that again. I'm never gonna apologize for being myself and for saying how I feel, and if I've always taken my beatings accordingly. But I did at the time, I did have someone that was kind of pressuring me who was like, "You need to say something. You need to apologize. You need to apologize. You need to apologize." And I was kind of like, "Okay, okay, fine." And so I did, and I don't think it was my truest self. Because again, I don't think the apology was effective. I don't think anybody cared to hear an apology. They just wanted a takedown. They had the pitchforks out, and, you know, unless I just completely bent over and kissed the ring, which I wasn't gonna do, it wasn't gonna appease anybody. And my job is not to appease people. My job is to be here and be me, right? The show is called No Filter with Zach Peter. It's not Baldoni News Daily. It's not Housewives News Daily. It's not, here's the headline of the week. Let's only talk about that. The show is called No Filter with Zach Peter. We have real conversations. Yes, we dive into a lot of pop culture because I love pop culture. And I know we all love reality TV and pop culture, and we'll continue talking about those things. That's why you saw the difference by the time I got the Meghan Markle haters. What was that, like a week or two later? So when it was the Perez fans and the Crystal Ball fans, and then by the time it got to the Megan fans, I was like, "Yeah, you guys want me to apologize? Here's my message to you. Fuck off. Period. End of story." Thank you guys. See, the real ones get it, and the ones that don't. Kenny says, "I'm sick of people telling creators what to do and feel and say. If you don't like it, skip that one. Don't watch it. It's easy." That's right, Kenny. What's the matter? You can't offend us, been here since the beginning, and I've had differences of opinion with Zach before, and I'm still here. Yes. Mary, weren't you always fighting with who are you? Oh, you were always fighting with Christopher, remember? In the members only. Why should you apologize when those people wouldn't do the same? Exactly. And that's what I realized. It wasn't, fuck them, keep doing it. Thank you. I agree. Perez was on Andy's show today. It was a nice interaction. They were civil, and it was good to see that. Yeah, I knew Andy. He told me ahead of time that he was interviewing Perez. He sent it to me this morning. I haven't watched it yet. I don't know how I feel. I feel like Perez, I still disagree with his approach. I like that he shifted his tone. I'm hoping that there's a little bit of accountability in that because I think it ultimately hurt him when it came to Judge Lyman, all of his theatrics and the craziness. Like, you have to think of how this affects things in the long run, you know? And I think Perez really fumbled the ball when he started with his circus on the docket. And again, I stand by that. Thursday is going to be crazy. Why is Thursday going to be? What's happening on Thursday? Is there something happening on Thursday? Lewis Smith? Lois Smith. Dance, dance, dance with my hands above my head, like Jesus said. Wild Boone says, right, we don't always have to agree, and that's what makes us better and to understand different perspectives. Yes. Perez is here. Oh, that's right. It's this Thursday. Wow. Perez Hilton has his hearing this Thursday in Las Vegas. We'll see what happens. We shall see. You should look more into topics you discuss. I've checked facts, and a lot of what the documentary says is not true. Um, okay. Thursday is Perez's court in Vegas. Got it. I really hope it goes well for him. I hope so too. But listen, you can't fuck around in court. That's the thing. You cannot fuck around in court. You got to play. You got to play to, got to play to the judge, got to play to the court system, got to be respectful. I'm rooting for Perez, but I did not like his behavior, and I stand by that. He's going to go up against 3 power attorneys. Yeah. It's tough. Tenerife C says, "Fuck around and find out." It's true. Elsie taught us that. Fafo, fuck around and find out. And when you fuck around, you will find out. I do love how your tone changes, though. It does. Good, bad. Okay. That said, let's wrap with Real Housewives of Orange County. Tamra Judge just did an interview. It's so interesting. This is for the Bravo fans. It's so interesting because she did an interview on Lala Kent's podcast, and she compares Jen Pedranti, who's she's the newest addition to Housewives, or she came right before Katie. And Jen, she is saying, is the Janet of Real Houses of Orange County. Janet is from the Valley. For those of you that are watching the Valley, you know Janet is like nobody likes Janet. Everyone's hating Janet, and they're saying Janet was a fan, and then she befriended the cast of Vanderpump Rules, which ultimately led to her getting on the Valley. She ultimately wanted to get on Vanderpump Rules, and then she ended up on the spinoff called The Valley. And so Tamara is comparing Jen to Janet. Now, I don't think there's any comparison. And I don't necessarily agree that Jen was intentionally and maliciously trying to befriend Tamra Judge to get on the show. I mean, listen, at this point, Housewives, like a lot of people want to be on Housewives. A lot of people are familiar with Housewives, you know? And so I don't know if I think Janet was a bit more premeditated in her befriending the group. I think, her going to where the cast was gonna be hanging out and befriending Sheena and, like, building that up, I think that was very intentional. But also Vanderpump Rules was very built on deep friendships and, like, who's in the restaurants and who's working with who and who's banging who. Whereas I think on the flip side, Housewives, you kinda see Housewives that casually live in the same areas, that kind of know each other but aren't that deep of friends. And so I don't think Jen was a unique casting. She had interviewed before, it didn't work in the past, and then this time they ultimately thought it was Jen's time to come on the show. And I think Jen is a great addition. Is she the spiciest? No. Is she the biggest personality? No. But I think there's a level of balance that Jen brings to the show. She's pretty. There's a lot of drama surrounding Jen. Her life is kind of crazy going out of her divorce and now jumping into this new marriage. So I disagree with Tamara in the sense that I don't think Jen was a fan, and I definitely don't think that Jen is performing the way Janet performs on the show, for sure, 1000%. Tamara also talked about Gretchen. She says that she stands firm in saying that she never really talked about Gretchen. She claims that she never called Slade, Gretchen's partner or fiance, a deadbeat dad. She said that those were just the headlines that were going around, and her job was to talk about the headlines, and these are the headlines. And if the headlines are calling you a deadbeat dad, I didn't call you a deadbeat dad. I just talked about, the article that called him a deadbeat dad. I was like, what? Okay, really, really trying to lean into the technicalities here, Blake Lively. But she did disclose that she and Teddy donated $1,000 to the GoFundMe for Slade's son, which was, I thought, very, very sweet. She reacted to the whole beef that her and Gretchen were having, where she came out and she was asking for compassion. And then Gretchen was like, "You want compassion from who? Like, you're the least compassionate person. You're so mean to everybody." And then Tamara's like, "I regret posting that. I shouldn't have posted that. But also, I wasn't talking about wanting compassion from Gretchen or from Jen, because obviously I'm not on good terms with them." But she was like, "I was talking about compassion from Emily and Gina and Heather, who are my actual friends." So, you know, it is what it is. But she said, Shannon got a ton of compassion when she was going through her DUI, and Tamara's like, "Why don't I get to get some of that compassion?" So we will see. We will see. But it's been a spicy season. It's interesting that Katie Janella, I think that we got into it at Donna Bowling's live show over the weekend, me and Stu, because Stu's like very team Katie, and I'm just like, how can anybody be team Katie? Why is everyone so obsessed with Kiki Monique? Um, well, I just think Kiki was a catalyst. She was very much a key piece in this rumor that Gretchen was roofied by Tamra or somebody when she filmed, presumably Tamra, and allegedly roofied with the naked, wasted scene on Real Housewives of Orange County 17 years ago. So I think that they did go to Mastro's, right? I believe that they all had dinner at Mastro's. Jen was there, Katie was there, Gretchen was there. And I'm sure Gretchen said something, right? I felt sick. I don't know. I went to the hospital. Like, who knows what the actual story was? But I think Gretchen did disclose something to them, right? I don't think that Gretchen said that she was drugged to them. I think, you know, she clearly said something. I don't know exactly what it was, but I don't think it's to the degree that Katie then retold the story. Now, Katie took that story and gave it to a blogger, which to me, this is your friend and she's sharing a story. Let's say Gretchen actually did say that, right? That Tamara roofied her, allegedly. Let's say Gretchen made that accusation. If she did, Katie still had no business going and telling Kiki Monique this business. Like, Katie had no, like, why are you talking to a blogger that you don't know? Why are you talking to someone whose job is to report on these shows and reality TV pop culture news? You're literally giving them this information and trusting them more than you're trusting your friend that allegedly told you this. Now, Gretchen saying that she didn't say those exact things. I think Gretchen said something. And that's why you have Jen kind of be like, well, no, that's not what she said. But like, yes, they did say, like, yes, there were things that were said, but that was not said. And Katie and Matt are just like doubling down on this. And Matt's just like, it's not your story to tell. But also, you didn't get it from nowhere. And it's like, was it not her story to tell? Because she did then go and tell it to Kiki Monique and it was getting out. So but I also Gretchen was on Juicy Scoop with Heather McDonald, and um, Gretchen talks about how it was completely mischaracterized, and that's not exactly what happened. She feels, shocked that Matt and Katie said the things that they said. Slade gave more context in the conversation that he had with Matt when he called Matt, and he was like, "Hey, this isn't a good look for your wife to be talking to bloggers. Like, don't talk to bloggers, especially about us." Right. So I think they did a really good job of explaining themselves. I think they sound really rational and really logical. Whereas on the opposite side, I think Katie has been caught in a number of mistruths, a number of times where she maybe exaggerates things or bends the truth a little bit more than she should. I think she has a very complicated relationship with the truth. And then on top of that, there's her hiring a crisis PR team ahead of the season, which tells me she knows that this was going to be a bad season for her. Number one. Number two, there was the piece where Katie had gone and tried to make Gretchen and Jen appear to be racist, and she even she did that Page 6 interview that we talked about a couple weeks ago, where she talks about the video that they posted, and she felt like it was directed at her, and it was insensitive to the Asian community, and yada, yada, which it was basically Jen and Gretchen kung fu fighting, saying, "We're getting ready to take down some housewives." And then Katie took that and she's like, "Oh my God, that's so offensive. It's racially insensitive." And then goes on Page 6 to talk about it when Page 6 didn't even ask about it and didn't even know about the video because the video was posted and then it was immediately taken down when conveniently those sort of insinuations about it being racist were starting to float around online. And I know there were bloggers that were in contact and communication with Katie at that time. And that was the narrative that Katie was very much trying to peddle out there because then Katie goes on Page 6 and talks about how they're being racially insensitive and like it's so crazy that the housewives don't want to get to know her and nobody's giving her a chance to get to know her and like she's the first Asian housewife on Orange County and like she's laying down that foundation, right? She's talking to bloggers, she's laying down this narrative. And then it really took a turn when this narrative started to spin and there was somebody that is close to Katie that did send me this information over the weekend. And I was like, I don't want this information. This is not a good look. And I'll give you the information. It was in regards to this week's episode with the lie detector test. So, mind you, you and me, we've not watched the lie detector episode yet. We don't know. I mean, I know, but like technically to the general public, we don't know what the results of the lie detector are. We don't know who fails, who answers correctly, none of that. Okay. So, why is Katie's camp and why are people close to Katie starting to put out this narrative that the lie detector company is fraudulent? Whether they are, whether they aren't, is one thing. Now, this is the same lie detector company that gets used in a number of different reality shows and entertainment vehicles. And listen, when it comes to lie detectors, it's a very intricate process and it takes a very long time. And you have to ask the same questions a number of different ways. Okay. It's a whole thing. Um, sorry, people getting crazy in the live chat. Um, not a troll with all caps. I know, I just blocked her. I'm learning to just block. Shut up. Get out of here. Go jerk off somewhere else. So what was I? Oh, the lie detector. So with the lie detector, if you're already trying to plant the narrative that the lie detector is fraudulent, before we know what the results are, it's because you're trying to get ahead of the narrative. You're trying to let the audience know that whatever information they're about to receive, they shouldn't trust it. I don't like when people do that. I don't like when people go out of their way to try and give you information so that you're prepared for it. So that when it comes, you already know what side you're supposed to be on. And so here, we're already being told that we should not believe whatever the results determined to be. Now, it's not uncommon for lie detector companies when they're in this venue to lean into the entertainment aspect of it. Again, a true lie detector test, this is why they're not the most reliable, I'll say that. A true lie detector test takes a long time, and you have to ask the same questions in different ways and really try to determine whether or not somebody's telling the truth or not. So, can you do it in like a more rushed, controlled setting? Sure, but for the most part, it can be challenging to do that, but it can be done, right? And so, the implication from what I gather from the information that has been presented to me, that's been presented to my friends, that's starting to float online about this fraudulent lie detector company, the implication is that it was possibly producers or somebody that set up this lie detector guy to determine that Katie was a liar. Because you'll see the episode, you'll see it play out. It doesn't go well for Katie. I'll just spoiler, I'll tell you that. So again, I've known about this for weeks. Now that we're actually getting to the episode, it's interesting. You hire a crisis PR team, you're doing PR, you're trying to make other housewives look racist, you're then doing it's the Meghan Markle playbook, right? Trying to like disprove people, whatever. My thing and advice to housewives is always just let it play out. Don't try to get ahead of the narrative. Don't try to, don't try to do the let me try to plant seeds, let me talk to bloggers, let me do this, let me do that. Like don't do any of that, right? Just let it play out, let the audience react organically, see what the reaction's going to be. And I think the best way to re-hack the conversation is doing a sit-down interview, right? I think that was one of the things that helped Donald Trump win the election is he did a number of long form sit-down interviews that were, over an hour that I think really allowed people to it humanized him in a way that made him relatable to a lot of Americans. I think, Anna Marie, when she was on Real Houses of Beverly Hills, remember how everyone hated her on her season with the esophagus with Sutton? And then she went and did her, what was it, an hour and a half on Juicy Scoop. And it kind of changed people's perception. I think that is the strongest vehicle for people to reclaim the conversation is to show us who you are in an unedited long form format. It gives you an opportunity to get to know who somebody is, right? Not a stale conversation, not a controlled conversation, just an open flowing conversation where you answer some of the hard questions and let us determine who you are based off of that. Let us see you kind of, twitch and sweat a little bit and then see how you navigate that and react to that. I think it very much can change a person's perception of you for sure. So, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Strange people on the internet. Tell me about it. So, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm done with you. You hate your own skin. You always side with the white side, but quesadilla, what they won't ever pick you. Say what? Why are we talking about quesadillas in here? What they will never pick you. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I know it's a game of dodgeball. I'm gonna cry myself to sleep over that comment. Thank you. Um, so yeah, we'll see. Yeah, they paid $75,000 a month for PR to create their cute banter. I'm hungry. I know, talking about quesadillas now makes me hungry. It makes me hungry. Good morning, guys. Elena says lie detector tests are really only useful if you track someone over a long period of time so you can have a baseline. Yeah. So, yeah, who knows how accurate the lie detector test is, but if, we'll have to wait to see it all play out. We'll see. I like to dip mine in salsa. Takaya. Have you guys been to Takaya? It's a really good. It's fast food Mexican, but it's like a healthier fast food Mexican. They have really good vegan quesadillas with gluten-free tortillas, gluten-free flour tortillas. One of my favorites, and they do have the sauce and the salsa that you can dip it into, and it's like, mwah, oy, soy magnifique. Delicious. Delicious. Carol says, "What's going on this Monday with the bad comments?" Yeah, happy Monday, everyone. Positive vibes. Yes, positive vibes, positive vibes, positive vibes. Haters gonna hate, but I just love, love, love. Yeah, we need we need some truth serum. That's called tequila. Tequila Mockingbird. Okay, let's do some quick shout outs, some quick review shout outs, which I'm sure after this episode, with the haters watching, they'll leave some mean ones, but we did get some nice ones. So let's give those a shout out because we'd like to shout out the Lerv in the club. Um, Awesome Hunter 715 says, "So funny. I love Zack. He cracks me up with his storytelling. Always a good listen." Thank you, Awesome Hunter 715. We have Angela D. Angela D says, "I absolutely love the podcast. Zack has a balanced approach when discussing various topics. He is also a relatable disposition and makes me laugh out loud while driving down the road. I look forward to listening, particularly on rough days. He brightens my day. God bless you, Zack, and keep up the good work." I'm glad. Listen, I love comments like this because when somebody tells me that I can brighten their day or make them feel better or just like make them laugh on their way to work or on their way home, that to me makes me feel good. I don't try to put out hate. I don't try to be a troll. I don't try to be mean to people. I know I have my moments where I can pop off and I can get a little activated and let my mouth get the best of me. But at the end of the day, we're just looking for Lerv. Lerv in the club. Let's get it. Get it. Get it. Get it. Get it. Okay. I think that's all I got. But I love you guys. I love it. I love it. We're all in this together, and we know that we are. We're all stars. Um, Drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts. Hit the like button. You are toxic positivity. I love it. Thank you. Um, and hit the subscribe button. So hit that subscribe button. That way you always get me up in your notifications and we get the tea fresh. We get the tea hot. We love it. Holly says, "We're here for the laughs and the tea, not the negativity." I know that's right. Mm, 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 mm. All right, guys. Be sure to leave an Apple Podcast review if you're enjoying the show. Be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You can always follow me at Just Plain Zack and follow the podcast at No Filter with Zack. Let's get it. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. Ciao for now.